All right, so it looks like we have some people in here. So I'm just going to get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome, and thank you guys for taking the time to attend today's webinar. Our topic of discussion today is going to be building your target list of schools. So we're really going to kind of be honing in on, what that looks like and how to use Sports Recruits to work on building your target list of schools and really how to find that right fit school for you. But before we get started, I want to introduce myself. So my name is Kayla Schaal. I am a customer success specialist here at Sports Recruits. I went to Mount Aloysius College, which is a small Division III school up in Western Pennsylvania, and I played soccer there for 4 years. So I love these webinars. I actually love this webinar in particular because I think it's so important to discuss the different components of finding a best fit school for you, and really talking about how Sports Recruits can be an asset to doing that. And I'm super passionate about just like communicating with high school athletes and getting them to play in the next level, since I know it changed my life for the better. So hopefully that can be all you guys one day as well. So getting started with everything, here's our agenda for our afternoon meeting today. We are first going to determining the right fit. So like what components are going into that, some questions to be asking yourself as you're moving through this process that kind of relate to those different topics. Then we're going to dive into how to utilize the school search tool and the different features that are kind of in the Sports Recruits platform that are going to set you up for success when building this target list. And then number 3, on the agenda, we're going to talk about analyzing where you stand. So how to have conversations with your college counselors, your high school counselors, your club coach advocates, to really understand like where you stand academically and athletically in the recruiting process and how you can utilize that to build your target list of schools. And then at the end, we're going to open it up for a Q&A. So you guys are more than welcome to drop any questions you have in the chat as we work through the presentation, and I'd be happy to answer them at the end. I also just like to always, let you guys know this is a lot of information. So if you want to review it later, you will get sent a copy of the recording. It'll also be posted on our YouTube channel, if that's something you're interested in learning more about, and you want to revisit it at a later time. Okay, so without further ado, we're just going to hop right in. I'm going to talk about determining the right college fit and what that looks like. So we at Sports Recruits kind of put these 5 categories together in regards to what goes into finding the best fit school for you. So one of them is academically. So does the school have your major? Are you challenged academically? What does that look like for you? And kind of like class sizes, like what are you thinking there? Those are the types of questions you kind of want to be asking yourself. Athletically, right? So like what division are you looking to play at? Are you looking to play for a JUCO school? Are you looking to play NCAA Division 1, 2, or 3? When do you want to see the field? Like where do you see yourself on the field, right? So some types of questions thinking athletically, how a school can be a fit for you. Obviously, geographically as well, we think this is something that's super important to consider. Do you want to be close to home? Do you want to be farther away from home? Do you want to be in a certain climate? So that's always a huge component to consider as you're building this list. Additionally, too, socially, is it a big student population? Do you want to be involved in Greek life? Is there different clubs or activities that you see yourself wanting to be a part of? And, how can you check to make sure that that school has those social fits for you? And then obviously financially too, I understand that college, is a family decision. And you just want to make sure that you're getting the right resources in front of you, and that you're picking a school that obviously you and your family talk about, that you can maybe receive some financial aid, scholarships, and like what the financial situation looks like for you and your family to be able to support you. So those are kind of like the 5 buckets that we have categorized that go into creating or finding the best fit school for you. And when you're building out your target list, we always recommend going into your Sports Recruits platform, and obviously we'll dive a little bit deeper into this later in our conversation, but just adding anywhere between 20, 30 schools to start. Understanding that this process is fluid and your target list is going to change frequently as you move throughout the recruiting process. But getting 20 to 30 schools on your list to start will really set you up for a way to be able to communicate to these schools, but also making sure that you're casting a wide net and making sure you're not just favoriting Division I schools. You want to be favoriting schools of all different sizes, divisions, things of that sort, to really make sure you're setting yourself up to get the best exposure possible and not cornering yourself. So over the next couple of slides, we're going to really dive deeper into each of these categories and really talk about some things you can be reflecting on, some things you can be asking yourself to really get to the bottom of what you want out of some of these categories and how they can apply to finding that best fit school for you. So jumping right away into the academic fit of things. So first thing you want to do is you want to really confirm that the schools you're looking at has the major or intended major that you could be potentially interested. Now, I know some of you might be younger and you might be like, Kayla, I have no idea what I would like to do with my life. I have no idea what I want to study. That is completely okay. No one expects you to have your life figured out like in high school or at 18 years old. I know it's a huge decision to make, but it's just something to keep in mind, right? Like you're able to have many different interests, and it might be worth looking into schools that are liberal arts based, right? Like I went to a liberal arts college. So I was able to take a variety of different classes to really see what I enjoyed, what I didn't enjoy. And then I was able to kind of make decisions from there based on the classes I took. So it exposed me to a lot of different things. So if you're not completely set on a certain major, that's something to keep in mind. Looking at liberal arts schools to really get that diversification in classes to see what you're really interested in. But if you are, set on maybe nursing or a science or business, and you are looking at schools with those intended majors, you want to make sure that they have that specific major for you, and then you can fulfill those requirements academically. Additionally, you want to research if your grades and standardized test scores, if you're a junior or senior, if you have them available, are in line with the school's academic standards, right? So looking at your grades and comparing them to maybe the average acceptance rate and like what average students' grades are, what their average test scores are, just to see where you line up when you're applying to these schools, or if you apply to these schools, to make sure that you can get accepted on the academic side of things to these schools as well. And a huge thing that you guys can be doing to really understand where that place is talking to your academic advocates. So your guidance counselors, your college counselors in school, your teachers, to really seek out their opinion to see, hey, like, here's my grades, here's how I'm performing. Can we talk about some schools that may be a good fit for me academically based on the things I'm interested in potentially for my major and what that looks like? So I think taking a step back, you always want to approach building your target list of schools with a holistic mindset, right? You don't want to just be looking at schools for just the athletic fit. You want to consider these other factors as well. And we'll dive a little bit more into that on this next slide here. So discussing the athletic fit then. So is the school a realistic option for you athletically, right? I think this is a huge question to ask yourself in regards to where you see yourself athletically and where you see yourself playing athletically. So some ways to understand kind of your athletic fit is, right, athletes on your club. Has anyone on your club or on your school team or on your, travel team gone to compete at that specific school conference level of play that you're looking to go play at? If the answer is yes, then I would totally continue leaning on to your athletic advocates and leaning into them to ask questions about, do you see me going to the school? How's my level of play? Like, can you see me, fitting into this bigger school, right? I think a question I ask myself a lot in the recruiting process as well is, what kind of impact do I want to have coming in as a freshman? Do I want to see the field right away, right? Because if you're playing at a larger Division I school, it's most likely that you aren't going to see the field until your later years, junior, senior year, right? Just because of their depth and their roster of anything. Or do you want to go to maybe a JUCO or a smaller Division III school and have an immediate impact and be able to play right away? Those are some questions you have to ask yourself as well. I also think, I often think about too, like the pros and cons, like going to a Division I school. Like, do you want to be a part of a potential Division I championship, NCAA championship, or like what does that look like for you, and what do you want out of that athletic college experience? And I think again, it goes back to leaning into your athletic advocates, your coaches, your recruiting coordinators for advice, right? They are there for a reason. They've seen you develop as a player. They coach you probably like multiple nights out of the week, have coached you probably for years, some of you at this point. So they've seen your growth, they've seen your development, they know what you are capable of athletically. So it's really important that you're asking them those hard questions and having those conversations with them to truly get a better understanding of where your athletic fit is and where they see yourself and your potential going athletically as well, just so you also have a better understanding of when you're building out this target list of schools and when you're reaching out to schools for that athletic component as well. So in regards to the geographic fit, I always like to ask myself, how far or close do you want to be from home? Like, do you want your family to be at all of your games if you're there? Do you want to be able to go home on the weekends? Like, that is something that is a very important question to be asking yourself as you're looking at these colleges. Do you want to be a drivable distance away, right? Like, my school was 4 hours away from home, so I was able to get in my car and drive home. Some of my friends went to schools that were a plane ride away, right? So it really depends on your comfort zone and what you're looking for, like how far you'd like to be away from your home and your family. Something to also consider is your ideal climate. So do you want to be in the mountains where it snows? I was in the mountain where it snows, and that's something that was a huge factor. Like, they warned me about that when I was getting recruited to play there. They were like, hey, like, it snows a lot up here. Are you okay with that? So just things to ask yourself, like, do you prefer to be by a beach or by warmer weather, right? Like, because when you're making these decisions, you are going to be there through all seasons, right? You're going to be there for a majority of the year. So asking yourself these questions, because they do come into play, especially when you're living there for, again, a significant part of the year. And also, too, do you have any family or friends close by to the school, right? Like, I know some family and friends may be scattered around the country. Is there a place that you want to go that, like, hey, I have some family and friends nearby that could reach out and be there for me, but I'm still far away from home. So just things to consider when you're looking for different regions of the country that you could be interested in, and how that would impact you as throughout your time there. So this is also a huge one too, diving a little bit deeper into the social aspect of things. So what does the student population look like? Again, is it a smaller school? Is it a bigger school, right? Where, there's a lot of different events going on all the time. If something, are you interested in Greek life or clubs or different organizations? Like, you can go on these schools' websites and see if Greek life is available. You can do a deep dive into their extracurricular activities to see what clubs they have or what organizations that they have that you might be interested in as well. So I think that's something to also really keep in mind, because some smaller schools might not have big Greek life presence. So if that's something that's important to you, you want to make sure that you're doing a little bit more research to see if those schools that you're adding to your list have these things that you want socially. I also think too, like, asking yourself, like, what are the living and meal accommodations like? Do you have to stay on campus all 4 years? Is there an opportunity, maybe your junior and senior year, where you can live in off-campus housing? And are you able to, get your own meal plan? Is there things in the area where you're able to, if you do move off campus, like, go to the grocery store and do your cook your own food off campus? So I think thinking about all of those aspects as well really does go into the social aspect of things and how you can see yourself on this campus outside of playing a sport, right? Because that's super important, is being able to have connections and have kind of your own identity outside of being an athlete at this college. Because yes, you are there ultimately to be an athlete and be a student athlete and play sports, but you also want to make sure that you're fitting in, and you're able to enjoy your time on campus outside of athletics as well. And then obviously to the financial fit. So, what are you and your family able to cover for your tuition, room and board? Asking yourself those types of questions, kind of having those more intimate conversations with your family members to really get on the same page at where you are at financially and what schools are kind of in that range. But also leaning into questions like, are you eligible for merit-based or athletic scholarships, right? Like, if you're looking to go Division I or Division II, like, can you be eligible for an athletic scholarship? Or if you're looking to go Division III or even JUCO, NIA, like, are you able to get academic and merit-based scholarships to help offset some of the costs? And also, filling out the FAFSA and seeing if you're eligible to receive financial aid from the FAFSA form as well. And again, if you have any questions about like tuition, financial aid, you can find all that information like right on the school's landing page. You can obviously always call the specific school's financial aid office and ask them questions as well. So I guess kind of circling back to the beginning, we really dove a little bit deeper into each of these categories and some of the questions that you should be kind of asking yourself when you're, working through building your target list and thinking about these different components. I think, we at SportsRecruits believe that if and when you go to make a commitment or make a decision, excuse me, if you can check off 4 out of 5 of these categories as like it's hitting everything, all of your requirements in 4 out of 5 of these categories, then it is a great fit for you. We consider that a great fit. Because if you're happy in almost all of those categories, then you're most likely found the perfect opportunity in college for you. Now, something I always like to bring up is that when you're building out this target list, you want to look at the school holistically, and you want to look at the school outside of just athletics. I know I touched on this a little bit earlier, but I think it's something really important to emphasize and really drive home, especially for athletes who are just starting the recruiting process. This is not just a 4-year decision, it's a 40-year decision, right? You're investing a lot of time and money and energy into receiving a degree and potentially playing at this level. So you want to make sure that you're making the right choice for you. And that is, making sure that you're thinking about the college outside of just athletics too, right? Because we also always like to bring up the broken leg test. So if you, make a commitment to go to a school and play for them athletically, and first season, second season, you're there and you get injured, right? And you're not able to play. Do you still see yourself succeeding on that campus and being happy on that campus outside of athletics? Like, that is super important because it happens more often than not. And you just want to make sure that you're in a place where if you take athletics out of it, will you still be happy and will you still thrive academically and socially and things of that sort? So it's just things to keep in mind as you're building out this list. And like I mentioned earlier too, as you move through the recruiting process, things are going to change. The list is going to change. You're going to add schools. You're going to take away schools as you start having more conversations with them. As you get on campus, you might step on campus and realize that a certain type of school might not be for you, and you might have to adjust your list accordingly. So just understand that that list is going to change, and it should, right? Because that's showing that you're checking all of these boxes, you're asking yourself some difficult questions, and really narrowing in on the schools that are just going to be the overall best fit for you. Okay, so now we're going to lean into using SportsRecruits and the school search tool, to really hone in on building out your target list. So I think for anyone who has not been on the platform yet, we have the school search function, which is found right at the top of your platform. It's under the schools tab. This is one of my favorite tools that we have available on the platform. And you're able to come into the school search tool and essentially search and filter for any college program in the country. Now, one of my favorite things about the school search tool is you can actually filter by different criteria that's important to you, which can include, if you're looking for a specific region, like we talked about, right? If you're looking to be in the Southeast or the Southwest, like you can filter for those specific areas. You can filter on academic selectivity. So if you want to go to a more competitive school, if you want to go to, or you're looking for certain SAT scores, things like that, you can plug those filters in. You can also plug in different majors, right? So we talked about that. Like if you're set on a certain major and you're really interested in just that, you can plug that filter in there as well. And then, like I also said, you can search by division, conference, and you have the opportunity to really go in there and plug and play with these filters that are important to you. And once you hit that search button, the school search tool will populate every school that is hitting that criteria and those filters that you put into the search bar at the top. So I think that's a great way to start, narrowing your search down after you get some of those concrete questions answered. That it's a great way to lean into some of those different, components that we discussed earlier. And then once those schools populate, you actually have the opportunity to click into the school, and it will take you to a separate landing page that's specific just to that school. So you'll be able to view all of the essential information on that school. So their athletic program overview, financial aid overview, admissions rates, and anything that could be like relative to learning more about that school. It will be found right on each school's profile, which is really unique. It really gives you a great snapshot of what the school entails athletically and academically, and you can access that again right by the school search tool and clicking directly on that school's page. So one of the things that's available also in the school search tool is the roster needs filter, which is something that's super unique. And it's only done and published and maintained by college coaches. So what a roster need is it's essentially an open roster spots that a college is recruiting for an upcoming class year. So you can find this information directly in the school search tool, but you can also find it on the landing page. Like I mentioned, you'll see if the school has published roster needs right on their landing page. So like I mentioned, these needs are published and maintained directly by college coaches on SportsRecruits. So, me and SportsRecruits staff and like people on my team, like we do not touch this. It is only updated by college coaches based on their needs. Now, we always like to mention too, sometimes college coaches don't always publish their needs for certain positions and class years, which is totally normal and that's okay. Some really like to do that. Just because you see like a certain college that you're really interested in doesn't have any needs published, please don't be discouraged. It doesn't mean that they're not looking for your class year or your position. It could just be because they haven't published their needs yet, or maybe they're not going to just yet. So that's just something to always keep in mind as well. But at minimum, what a roster need entails is it's an athletic position. So for soccer, for example, maybe a coach is looking for defense and a class of 2027 grad year. That's at minimum. So they could publish those needs for that. But coaches can also add more specific criteria. So to fulfill a need, so it could be, I want a 2027 soccer defense player, but I want to make sure that they have video on their page, and I want to make sure maybe they're at a certain GPA. So that way, it gets a little bit more specific to what they're actually looking for, which is super unique. So you need, and I think it's also important to point out, a lot of coaches are leaning into roster needs having video. So over 95% of roster needs require a video to become a full match to show that you're meeting their needs. So I think that that's just also important to emphasize, like make sure you're getting video on your profile if you haven't already. And that's something to just keep in mind moving forward as well. But just another way to really lean in to this process and understand, like you can utilize this to your advantage when you're searching for schools. So in the school search tool as well, you'll also be able to, favorite schools that become of interest of you. So if you click on a school's landing page and you're super interested in them after kind of getting that quick snapshot of information, you'll be able to then click on that tiny heart and it will add it to your favorites list. And you can do this again, like I said, from the school search tool directly. You can do it from the activity feed if a school comes up in your activity feed on your profile, or like I said, you can do it directly from the school's landing page. So what that will do is SportsRecruits will then automatically store all this information in your favorites list that you'll be able to come to and revisit and reorganize. So this is kind of where I said earlier, like this list is going to be constantly changing because you have the opportunity to do a lot of things in this list. You can, one, categorize these schools as fit, reach, and safety, which we'll kind of dive deeper into what I'm referring to by fit, reach, and safety, a little bit later in our conversation. But you can also rank them. So you can, if in this example, if Gettysburg College is your number one, you can have that at the top and then reorganize them based on their rank that's important to you. You can categorize them by last contact, so like how you're reaching out to them. And yeah, I mean, it's just a great way to kind of have all of this information living in one place for you. Because when I was going through the recruiting process, I had Google Sheets, Excel docs, and I was trying to track all of this information. But SportsRecruits gives you the opportunity to keep everything centralized right in your profile, which I think is a huge advantage to have as you're building out this list. And something to keep in mind that we get asked a lot is, can college coaches see my list of schools? The answer to that is no. So this list of favorite schools is just for you and your parents and your advocates, whoever that may be. Whoever has access to your account can only see your list. However, if, for example, you favorite Gettysburg College, Gettysburg College will know that you have favorited their specific program. So they're not going to know that you have Franklin and Marshall and Dickinson College on your list. They're just going to know, oh, Kayla favorited Gettysburg College. So they'll be aware that you have favorited their specific program. So now we kind of talk about the tools that you can use in SportsRecruits to build out this target list and what some of them look like. But now we're going to discuss analyzing where you stand with these schools. So some things to consider. I know I just mentioned schools being reach fit or safety schools. So this is in terms of athletically and academically. So a reach school is one maybe athletically or academically that your grades, their academic requirements are a little bit higher than what your current GPA is, or athletically, like they're recruiting, just a little bit players from like who play higher level clubs or things like that. So that's categorized as a reach. It's not out of reach, meaning like it's something you might just have to work a little bit harder for academically and athletically to get to that school. A fit is something where you're, athletically and academically, your grades are aligning. You're kind of aligned with some of the baseline statistics of like what their teams are doing and things like that, meaning all across the board, it's a fit for you. And a safety school is that your grades and your academic performance and your athletic performance, are way above their standard and what the rate that they're performing at now. So their GPA and what their team is doing and their athletes are doing there. So again, these are great questions to talk with your advocates about and bring kind of both of them to the table, athletically and academically, each school, and really be able to sit down and categorize what that school looks like for you. Something to also, keep in mind as you're working through your list is that there's a lot of big schools that are super popular, and that may increase your competition as a recruit, especially for these bigger Division I programs, especially everything that's going on with the settlement right now. Roster spots are going to be reduced. So your competition as a recruit is going to be higher. So that's something to just keep in mind as you're starting to communicate with these schools and as you're putting them on your list, is that it's just there's more student athletes reaching out to this school. There's a lot of student athletes interested in these particular schools. So it might just take some extra time and effort to get through to the coach and just understanding what that competition as a recruit looks like too. Being honest with yourself as well. So like, again, having these hard conversations, like no way is it easy to talk about like where you stand athletically and academically, but getting a second opinion, again, always leaning into your recruiting coordinators, your club directors, your college advisors and counselors at school, and getting a second opinion on your list, like bringing it to them and like talking through like, these are, based on the criteria that's important to me, this is what I have on my list. Like, can we go through it? I think that that's really important. And going back to what I said earlier, reassessing and rebuilding, adjusting your list as you, continue to move through the recruiting process, as you get on campuses with these schools, as you get in communication with these college coaches. I think that that's something that's super important to understand, that this list is going to change as you also grow as a recruit and move through the recruiting process. So not being scared to, change the order of certain colleges and, revisiting it constantly and making sure that it's a list that is, again, hitting on all of your needs and all of those components that we talked about earlier. And again, I can't emphasize this enough. I know I mentioned it multiple times throughout our conversation today, but really just talking to your advocates. They are the people that know you the best. They are the people that have probably watched you grow from, a younger athlete to the person you are today, and as you're going to continue moving through high school as well, both athletically and academically, right? Like talk to them, have those conversations, see where you fit in, and have those open and honest talks with them to really get a better understanding of where you should be putting your energy with these schools and what schools would be the best fit for you in both of those categories. And lastly, a tool that's also available in your SportsRecruits list and your favorite list is the progression bar. So you're actually able to track each progress you have with each school. So you'll see at the top in that favorites list, there's a little gray bar at the bottom of each school. You can just simply hit that caret and it will drop down and it will show this milestones tab. So if you send an introductory message to this college, it'll automatically get marked. We'll mark that for you. And then you can track your progress there. It'll also, if you're on a club team, you actually have the opportunity to request help from your advocates. So you'll be able to request help, like whether that's writing a message or things that sort. So that's that request help button. You'll get notified and we'll check it off if you receive a view from that specific college. And then obviously the last three are for you to kind of fill out as you move through the recruiting process, but hopefully you can get on campus with them, you can receive an offer, and if that leads to a commitment, what that looks like. It's just another way to stay organized throughout the recruiting process and just understand like where your communications have been with this school and like what that looks like, or if you need to continue reaching out to them, or if you haven't yet. Just another great way, great asset to have in your toolbox, in your toolbox, to continue kind of, moving through the recruiting process and utilize when building out this target list. Okay, so now I think we have some time for questions. So if you want to drop anything in the chat, I'll do that. I'll do a quick review. Came in yet, but I think we did get one question about the school's favorite list. So like I mentioned earlier, the question was, can colleges see my favorites list? No, they can't. They're not able to see that full list. Again, it's just for you and for your advocates only. They're only able to see if you have favorited a specific program, if you favorited their specific program. How much does the school search tool cost to use? So the school search, that's a great question. The school search feature is available for free and pro users. It's available to anyone. You can go in there. You don't have to have the pro version of the account to utilize the school search option. Great. Awesome. Well, I did want to drop in the chat, again, if you have any other questions, you can always reach out to our help desk at help@sportsrecruits.com. I am on the support team there, so I'm always happy to help as well. And I'm just going to grab this for you. So if you're looking to get more hands-on support, we also offer more in-depth recruiting guidance packages for users available. So if that's something you're interested in, and you're not a lacrosse player, please reach out to, I'll drop the link in below. You can schedule a time with our recruiting analyst to see if that's something you're interested in learning more about. It's a great thing we offer just to get some additional support as well. So I'm just going to drop that in the chat here real quick, and then I'll answer a couple more questions before we log off. Okay, so there's our recruiting analyst's calendar link. So if you want to learn more about those different packages, you can do so by clicking that link and booking a time with her to do so. But yeah, perfect. That's a great question. Is there a way to increase views for your highlights and your highlight reels? So the way to continue to increase visibility for your profile is to constantly be reaching out to coaches using the SportsRecruits messaging system, because every message you send will automatically embed your profile link to that college coach. So when they click on your page, they're able to immediately have access to all of the information that's available on your SportsRecruits profile, including your highlight videos. So I would just continue messaging college coaches and kind of continuing that outreach so they have access to your highlights and your profile in general. Okay, great. Well, if you have any other questions, you can reach out to help@sportsrecruits.com, and just know that this was recorded and will be distributed for you guys at a later time. But yeah, thanks for taking the time to learn a little bit more about this today. And again, we're always here to help. So, yeah. Bye guys. Have a great day. Okay.